Morning, this is day 133 on my hike from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. As you can hear, it is raining. I'm in my tent. It is 7:15 in the morning. I must have woken up around 4, and I think that's when it started raining, because I woke up at 3. I don't believe it was raining then. So yeah, it started raining sometime late night, and it's just coming down. It just sucks. A lot of my stuff is wet because I wasn't prepared for rain. So like at night, I will usually put my socks on that little ledge there to air them out. So my socks and my compression sleeves are soaked. But I figured it's better to wear them than not, so I put on wet compression sleeves, and some water got underneath my tent again where I have my clothes under my pad. So they're a little damp in places. I have to take a poop. I really just don't want to get out in this rain. Like this sucks. It's cold. I feel a draft coming through, and it's just wet and nasty again. So tough start to the day. You can see better where I camped last night. I just went and took a poop in the rain. It just sucks. No other way to put it. So now I'm gonna finish packing up and just get moving. Gotta get miles in, rain or shine. Everything's just wet and dirty. Like this is splatter of dirt on both sides, all over. It's just a mess. And I see there's a hole here. You can see the light coming through in my DCF fabric on both sides. Like unreal. It's trash. So here's that bandana I was talking about, the map a few days ago. I just used it to wipe down a bunch of wet stuff in my tent, but this is Cascade Locks here, 505. So like there on the map, but here's listed. So that's essentially what I have left. If you just kind of eyeball it, I mean, you really look at what's been done. Pretty crazy. Still a long ways to go. I mean, if it's weather like this every day, I don't know, but because it slows me down so much. Like, I had no way I'm putting up a 30-mile day today. Won't be even getting started till 8 a.m. But yeah, I'm getting there. Well, I hope it stops raining later so I can draw out my stuff. Otherwise, I am in trouble. You can see the whole tent is wetted out underneath. Using the ground sheet provided. Doesn't do shit. Look at that. Totally soaked. Well, I just swore out loud really intensely because literally it's the last thing I need. The very first ground stick I go to pull out breaks and gets stuck. Like, god damn it. This is the last thing I freaking need right now. What a mess. What a freaking mess. If I knew it was gonna rain, I would have taken a flatter site. There was one over here. Right there. But this one was cozier, tucked in the trees, and it had a little bit of an incline so I could rest my feet at an angle for the night to help. God, this is a mess. This just sucks. This sucks so much right now. Well, I literally lifted my tent up and it's so heavy, water's just pouring out from it. What a freaking mess. This tent is at least a pound heavier with how wet it is right now and all these little needles attached to it and crap. Tried shaking it out, did almost nothing. It's which is it's just 100% increase. It's basically a pound to start with. So this is just, ooh, I am pissed off this morning. This just sucks. I mean, look at this shit. That's what I was sleeping in all night, and awful. Literally just pulled right under my tent. Tent's got holes in it. The ground sheet never works. The zippers are breaking. It's just a great $700 investment in a quote-unquote thru-hiking tent. So I'm just leaving my tent site. It's 8 a.m. I'm pretty pissed off. This is the worst shape my tent's ever been in. How did I get in here? I think it was this way. Everything just seems different when it's wet and damp. There is a trail here. I'm gonna see what this one does. Like, why is there just a puddle right where my tent had to be? Like, so I don't know right now. This is seriously the worst shape my tent's ever been in. Like, if I had to set up again right now, like, it's in really bad shape. Okay, I don't know where this is leading. I'm just gonna go back where I know I came from. I had a new plan, which I guess I can talk about later. It's gonna be very hard to film today. It's very hard with rain. I also have my gloves on, which makes it even harder. I think I've only worn these once before this entire hike while hiking. I had shipped them ahead to myself here. So I didn't carry them throughout Oregon, but I carried them the entire rest of the trail. Rarely use them, but I'm glad I have them right now. And I don't remember bushwhacking to get in here yesterday. It's gonna be hard. It's really hard to get it when the phone's wet, and then also with these gloves on. They have some button or like patch on them. It's supposed to make it still work through to touch screen, but it doesn't work great. Classic. Something not working like it's supposed to. But yeah, I had a plan because I have so much food. I'm only 35 miles out from Trout Lake, where I'd hitch into Trout Lake, which is my next resupply point, or was planned to be. But I have so much excess food with me still right now that I was thinking, oh, the trail was over there. Darn it. Whatever. God damn it. Look at this, just freaking soaked. My plan, it's basically 103 miles to get to White Pass, where I have a box waiting for me. It's back on the PCT. So I'm honestly looking at my food last night, and I'm like, I could probably stretch this an extra like 2 to 3 days. Might be a little hungry, and it's maybe a dumb idea, but I could just avoid having to go into Trout Lake altogether. Today's gonna be slow though. That was banking that I do at least 25 a day. It's basically 4 days. But like, look at today. So I don't know how it's all gonna shape up. But the good thing is for Trout Lake, there's actually 3 places on the PCT you can hitch into Trout Lake from. So I kind of have a little bit of time to kind of play it out and have different options whether I go in or not. So I'll see you all down trail. This is an absolutely miserable start to day 133. And naturally, as soon as I get back on trail, it basically stops raining. What a freaking joke. What a mess. I'm not happy right now. Again, it's hard to video, but there are puddles like this throughout the whole trail. Like, it just sucks. I'm like really having a hard time not complaining about everything right now. Like, that's like swampy, nasty water. Oh, my feet are hurting a bit because of the big day yesterday. I'm overheating now with what I'm wearing, but like, it's just such a process to take off. I'm not quite miserable, but I'm close to it right now. The worst part is I have a shelter that doesn't function and isn't usable right now. That's what pisses me off more than anything. This is fucking miserable. I can't even use my phone to like check far out because the wetness. That's a very serious flaw and issue in my kit here that I'm gonna have to figure out. For now, I'm gonna use my microfiber towel to dry off the phone when I need it. But I've been keeping it dry, but then it's like damp and it just doesn't work. My rain jacket's totally wetted out. Like, fuck you, Patagonia. $200 rain jacket sucks. Not even holding up. Totally wet on the inside. I'm cold and wet and miserable. Absolutely miserable. Like, it's just, this sucks so much. My tent is so screwed up. Like, if it doesn't stop raining and I can dry this out, I have no shelter right now. And I'm completely drenched. It's kind of borderline dangerous. I was gonna get water there, but I'm gonna wait I just took a little shelter to try to get to use my phone for a change. So yeah, I won't be filming. I've been walking through puddles like this the whole time. Like this sucks. There's no other way to put it. Really, if my shelter was okay, I'd feel a lot better. And if my rain jacket was freaking working, that'd be nice. It's not a bad morning, it's just not morning. It's almost dusk. I will catch you all up later, either today or tomorrow, about what's going on. But it's been a crazy 24 hours for me, including a phone that was broken, so I have no videos. I'm just grateful to have it even up and working. Crazy in the rain, some miserable weather to be hiking in and sleeping in, wet, damp, ugh. But I will catch you up on that later, but I just wanted to get the document for the day in there.
Oh yeah, we have to go fast because it's like in 19 minutes.
I think we're live. Okay, this is the general store that in Trout Lake that I've been at since around 1 o'clock. That's Lila. We've reunited. It's been a heck of 24 hours as mentioned, but I'm going to talk about that all later. But right now we're going to try to get pizza before it closes. I'm going to spend the night here. My tent is back there where they graciously let us post up for the night in town. Oh boy. Yeah, I'm really worried if this phone's going to hold up for the rest of this hike. All right, this is day 135. It looks like my video phone is actually recording. There's so much to catch up on. I haven't vlogged in 2 days, which is a weird feeling.
He's not walked in days. He's so lazy.
That's Harry. I will hopefully on trail be walking and be able to update with everything that has occurred. But it's been interesting. But we just got dropped off by some trail angels. There's also people, they do a schedule here. It's the most organized town of trail angels I've seen anywhere. They take you to and from Trout Lake, but basically, happy birthday. We did this yesterday too. I tried to record it but couldn't. Megan, happy birthday to you. Nice people out here. So yeah, basically some of these people are just getting dropped off with me. There's I think 10 of us this morning, or 9, something like that. And then some people are getting in, and they have a schedule, and you can also call them for rides, but it's just so nice. Donation based, you know, they don't expect anything, but it's nice to give. So very good. But I'm going to get back moving here and hopefully be able to record what's going on. Hello, it is day 135, and I am elated because my camera is now working again. It is about 9 a.m. I am back on trail. Just got dropped off with a bunch of other hiker friends, as mentioned. I was going to be the first one out, but then I decided to get a picture with everybody. And 2 friends, the British couple I mentioned the other day, are up ahead of me here, but we're all starting around the same time. So much to catch up on. All right, buckle up, folks. It's going to be a long one. So, day 133. I wake up around 4 a.m. and it's raining. I have this documented and I believe uploaded now. The day goes on. It is just raining all day. I can't even use my phone. Like, I try to take my phone out and it won't open because it was like damp and wet. And I got really pissed. My Patagonia I've carried. So what I'm going to do is tell you kind of what happened, why there's no vlog. But let me just TLDR. My phone broke, I think, from the rain. And I ended up getting a ride all the way back to Hood River, which is where I went to resupply when I was in Cascade Locks, and I went over to the Walmart there to try to fix it at the Verizon store. I'll get into all those details later, but long story short, I ended up getting a charger that doesn't use the port. It charges wirelessly, and that actually, because my phone wasn't charging, I think from the water damage, and that allowed me to charge my phone. And then once I charged it up, tried to use the camera, but that wasn't working. So I updated the software last night, still wasn't working. It would like freeze up for like 6 minutes, just not working at all. And then somehow magically, even on the car ride here, wasn't working. And then all of a sudden, as soon as I get back on trail, it's working again. So very grateful for that. But that's the TLDR. But now I'm gonna try to give you, I might do it later because it's gonna be a little tiring talking, but I want to try to actually update on what transpired in the last 2 days and document it that way, since I don't have videos of it or photos. But I think maybe I'll do that a little bit later so I can focus on hiking for a bit. All right, day 135. Very happy to be out here moving again with a camera that works and a phone. Everyone, this is Justin. We've become friends since my phone broke. So we got a ride together into Trout Lake yesterday, and he was really empathetic and helpful to me when my phone was broken, because he had just experienced the same thing a few weeks ago. Yeah, but anyways, just wanted to introduce him because we've kind of been together on and off the last day and a half or so, and my phone's been out of commission, but it just started working, as we know. It's pretty dope. So, but he also has a Shemag on, which is dope. And
the desert.
Yeah,
Comes in handy in the cold.
Yeah,
And the sun.
I think it's a great idea. I considered doing that. I haven't really seen anyone out here doing it. I think it makes a lot of sense. So, all right, we'll see you down the line. Well, I'm so grateful my camera's working again. It literally was, I clicked the icon and it would stay in a black screen for 5 to 6 seconds, and then it would go on, and then it wouldn't even work when I hit play. So it's crazy that the second I get back out here, it's working again. So my plan is to basically document day 135 as normal. And then when I sit down for lunch later, I'm gonna do my best to recap everything that occurred since I was unable to record. So halfway through 133 and then all of yesterday. And then I'll just bundle those 3 into one video that you're watching. So that's the plan. I just stopped to have a drink of water because I hadn't had much in the last day. I was having a headache. I had a cold piece of pizza that was left over. Took my jacket off, my fleece, went pee, like that kind of stuff. Probably like a 10-minute standing break. But everybody that I started with has now passed by, which is okay. I just entered the Mount Adams Wilderness. I think Mount Adams, I called out in the video a couple days ago. There's a nice view of it behind Trout Lake, the town I was just in. But now I'm in the Mount Adams Wilderness. Boy, I'm just really grateful for where things have shaken out here. The fact that my phone's working and I am back on trail. All right, I'm gonna start a little bit of coverage here. So initially I planned to go to Trout Lake to resupply. I've sent myself boxes throughout most of Washington, and there's a few places I was going to resupply in town. This was one of them. I kind of sillily, is that a word? Sillily took way too much food, as I documented, out of Cascade Locks. And I realized a day or so in to hiking from Cascade to here, which is by Trout Lake, I probably had enough to make it all the way to White Pass, which is the next resupply point where I have a box waiting for me. So I actually, like, one night only had for dinner half a package of mashed potatoes, because that kept 3 freeze-dried meals in my inventory, which would have been 3 more full days to get there. And I think I had enough food. I was good. So actually my plan was to not stop in Trout Lake, just keep pressing forward. But then my phone broke, at which point I needed to go to Trout Lake anyways to try to figure it out. So I ended up going into Trout Lake yesterday around noon or 12:30. So I got a shuttle, or somebody was driving, called a shuttle, 12:30. So I got into Trout Lake around 1. Did everything I could to try to fix my phone, you know, air dry it, put it in the sun, which I don't know was the best idea, but charge it up. It said at one point, because yeah, I don't know, I'll go through all that when I'm at lunch, like exactly what happened and in what order. But and then so I ended up being in Trout Lake, basically. It's what I'm trying to point out now, from 1 p.m. yesterday till about 8:30 a.m. today. So almost a full day of time I would have saved, but I had to tend to what happened. So it went from a planned stop to an unplanned stop, if you follow that. And it's okay though. I'm a little behind where I could have been. I mean, almost a day, but at least my phone's working. So the point of this video right now is I'm just happy that I can record. I just broke my golden rule and walked back, but I wanted to show this. Look, this is obviously was a blow down in the way. There's a bunch here. that got cleared. So thank you to who did that. But you can see here is where there's branches growing out of the tree. It's very interesting to see how it's in there inside the trunk. So it's September 16th. And the Trail Angels, again, the most organized. They literally have a schedule with different people that volunteer to pick up hikers, like very organized. They said they usually kind of cut it off around like a few days after Labor Day, but this year there's just been so many hikers still going later in the season, which kind of dovetails with like the fact that I've been saying anecdotally, there's so many people I've met, even just yesterday, that are like banking on going into mid or late October, which I just don't think you can count on that. It could happen, but it's not reliable. I mean, look at the weather. Well, you didn't see any of it really. You saw a little bit. I'll explain more later, but brutal, absolutely miserable day 2 days ago out here. So, but yeah, definitely have caught up to people. Very exciting. Some of the first people I saw when I got into town were the twins, Colin and Dylan. My favorite twins that I saw last time in Belden. Hadn't seen them since. Saw them in the trail log out of Belden. We camped together that night. And then I was about a day behind them in the logs. And then they just fell out. I didn't see them in the logs anymore. And then I took 6 days off in Ashland. So I would look for their names pretty much more than anybody's when I'd be out there. And then I didn't see them for a long time. And there they were. It was very exciting. I wish I could have captured it. And there's Lilo. We've also caught up to each other. So it was really exciting to see a lot of these people that I really thought I'd never see again, which is a testament to the fact that I've been putting in pretty long, hard days without much break for the last like 16, 17 days, or maybe even more at this point. And then, yeah, I guess it'd be 20, 21 days now, because three weeks from tomorrow is when I left Ashland, so something like that. But the data point from these drivers is really interesting, that they usually shut these services down. They're still available because they're so nice, but on a call basis for the very last hiker to come through. They'll just have to schedule it. But the actual scheduled shuttle, they usually wind down, but they've kept it going because there's just been a lot of hikers still coming through. So I don't know, there's a lot of people still going, banking on pushing into mid to late October, which I don't know. I'm still gonna be grinding hard to get there earlier in October. I had to stop to forage a few huckleberries. So good. It's so nice just having that out here sometimes. So it's 10 a.m. already. It's like pretty exposed here. It's sun. I'm sure I'll get hotter later, but there's like a cool breeze coming through still. Definitely feels fall-esque. Technically still have about 4 or 5 days of summer, but you can start to really feel it changing. Between that and these storms that have been in and out, it's a whole new dynamic out here. In fact, someone I was talking to earlier was like, yeah, I'm going to try to get more miles in today because it's good weather. Like, that's a real factor now, it seems, out here. It's kind of windy out, and I'm hearing a lot of creaking in these widowmakers here. Gotta stay vigilant. So, next stop, resupply point, is White Pass, which is 66 miles from where I just hitched into and out of Trout Lake. Hitch is the wrong word, whatever. Scheduled, got her out in the shuttle from Trail Angels. But right after that, there's a fire closure. So it's going to be, I got to figure out what I'm going to do with all that, because the closure, it's like there's a suggested route around it. So anyways, gotta figure that out. But I think it's like involves hitching, so I'll be having to miss some miles. But that is in my parameters. I said I'll hike every mile unless you legally can't. Now I'll figure that out in 2 days. That's a problem for another day, but did want to flag that. That's coming up. Last I checked on watch duty, the fire is only 8% contained. Massive huckleberries. I had to stop and eat. And these are probably the biggest huckleberries I've seen on trail. They're absolutely delicious. I just need to keep moving or I'm not going to get miles in. I've probably eaten about 20 to 30 already. I would love to sit there for an hour and forage, but and look at them. There's Mount Adams in the background. You can also hear an eerie whistling with the wind coming through. Somehow making a whistling sound with these dead trees. I don't know if you'll pick it up in the microphone's camera, but it's pretty eerie. Kind of cliche, honestly. Like in all the cartoons and movies, when like a storm's coming in the winter, you know, makes kind of that whistling sound. Maybe coming through the chimney or something. That's like literally what it sounds like. I was just doing it. Oh well. There, did it? You could hear it for a second in there. The whistling. Definitely feeling a little under the weather. When that rainstorm hit 2 days ago, I felt the pressure behind my ears, and I feel that again today. I've been spitting a little bit of phlegm out. I don't know if it's related, but not ideal. Not a huge deal though, I can manage. Hopefully you can hear that, the whistle. Not the wind, there's like a whistle from it. Derivative of the wind. Pretty cool. It's like eerie, but cool. Well, I'm breaking my rule of never going back to give you all a pun. This is the Arc Day Triumph. Ha ha ha. It's been quite a climb up starting the day. I think it's around 2,000 feet up or over 8 miles. So gradual enough where I'm really feeling. That is Mount St. Helen. It's 2,400 feet of elevation gain over about 8.5 miles or so, so a little bit more than I guesstimated. Because then I looked at my watch, I've already done over 2,000, and I have about 2.5 miles still to go in this climb. So I mentioned I started out and then I had to stop and everyone passed me. I've now subsequently leapfrogged everyone except for Justin that I was hanging with earlier briefly. So I mean, then I'll end up taking a break and they'll pass me, but a little out ahead of the pack again here. It's quite windy up here, or today. You can still see Mount Hood way back there south. Mount Adams here still. So I essentially ended up carrying way too much food from Cascade Locks to Trout Lake. Probably about 8 to 10 pounds worth, because it's 2.5 to 3 days worth of food and some luxury food items like candy that I don't really need and stuff that's heavy. So why? I mean, I did overpack a little bit, but part of it was because I seen the elevation profiles and heard Washington's just way tougher and then like Oregon and stuff, so you should plan to like decrease your mileage. And so it was 88 miles, I think, from Cascade Locks to Trout Lake, and the mileage I had been doing, I could have done that in like 2.5 days. But here, talking with a few people, they're like, oh, we're planning for more, whether 3 to 4 days. So I erred on the side of caution. I still crushed it in basically 2.5 days. I think that's what it was with the rain and all. Yeah, it would have been like less than 3 full days, but and so I ended up with all this extra food. So it is what it is. I basically didn't have to resupply at Trout Lake. I bought a half a pound of cheese and 1 thing of donuts, literally a couple of batteries. But it is annoying to think that I carried an extra, called 10 pounds for 88 miles up crazy or pretty intense elevation gains. But can't always get it right, and with new variables being introduced in a way, I would rather err on the side of caution than be in a situation like I was it going into Yosemite, I think, where I just didn't have enough food. It was awful. And I'm so grateful my phone's working properly. So that's Mount St. Helen again. And then there's a good shot of Mount Rainier, which the trail should be kind of running up and by, like just kind of around and past. But part of that closure is in Mount Rainier National Park, so I'm not sure exactly where it all shakes out. Just got to the top of this climb basically, and it's quite the vantage point. 360 degrees to be able to see Mount Adams there, Mount Rainier there, and Mount St. Helen there, with all the views and whatnot in between, little peaks. I am sore. I don't feel great. I feel achy, but kind of like from being sore from hiking, but also kind of like when you're sick. So I got about a mile and a half to go to get to the next water source. I'm gonna rest there. That'll be about 10 miles in for the day. And I'm gonna take some ibuprofen, which I have not been doing in a long time during the day, but I think my body needs it right now. It just doesn't feel good. On the side of Mount Adams here. And north to Mount Rainier. That is where the trail's heading, basically. Kind of coming out of Cascade Locks, it headed actually west a little bit, went up and then kind of looped back east, but now for the most part, oh man, my plantar fascia hurting, heading to north. Do you hear that? I could be wrong, but I think that's a glacier falling or moving. I have some leftover pizza that I got yesterday in Trout Lake. Gravity filtering per usual, drying out my sleeping bag because even though it didn't rain last night, there's kind of a lot of condensation inside. You know what? A lot of people I talked to had the same problem. So even with different types of tents, and because I have a single wall tent where other people have a separate rain fly, they're still getting condensation on the inside of the rain fly and some on their sleeping bag. So it's like just the gear is just not great for this kind of weather, it seems. Yeah, I'm kind of spread out here, but I'm gonna eat and then I'm gonna try to gather my thoughts and just do like a video recap of what happened the last like day and a half. I'm hearing something crashing down again. I mean, this is out on a limb, but I really think it's like a rock slide with the glacier or something. What I heard earlier. Okay, I just finished about an hour lunch break. I did not record the video of me trying to recap what happened the last 2 days. excuse me, because I really didn't have time to think and try to recollect it all. Because literally every person, I guess there'd be 2, 4, 9 of us that started out today, like when we all took that shuttle, ended up hanging out where I posted up there for maybe 15, 20 minutes. For me and one other guy, it was a lunch break. Everyone else used it as kind of a water break. They're gonna take lunch coming up, but it was cool. I haven't experienced that amount of people in one place like that, hanging out on the trail, I think since like probably the desert, maybe. Like just, we were all kind of, I guess, at a similar pace. I guess I actually got out in front of everybody at that point, but it was cool because we all kind of congregated and just were hanging out, telling trail stories and whatever. So at some point today, I will do that recap. It might not be till I'm in my tent at night tonight, but there's a lot to cover. It won't be too long. I'll just keep it succinct. So now I only did 10 miles in the day and it's already 2 o'clock, but it's because it's got a later start with the shuttle and all. I have it's pretty cruisy miles. Like I think the next 15 miles, there's only like maybe 1,500 feet in elevation gain and a couple thousand and 2,000 or 3,000 in descent. So I'm hoping to try to get those 15 done. Might be a little dark by the time I get to where I want to go, but that's the plan. You know what? I'm going to try to do it now while I'm walking because it's probably more enjoyable scenery than if I'm just sitting in a tent. So I'm going to kind of wing this, but basically on day 133, I woke up around 4 in the morning. It was raining. Some of this has been documented in the day. It was raining in my tent and it pooled under the tent. It was pretty miserable, but I got up, I got moving probably by 8 o'clock or so in the rain, and started hiking. I didn't know it was supposed to rain that night. It continued raining at a light to medium. I'd say it was moderate rain. It wasn't too heavy or like torrential downpour. It wasn't exactly light either, but it was like a moderate, light to moderate, consistent rain all day. And I couldn't use my phone. It got to the point where like my phone just got damp and I got really pissed with Patagonia. So I've been carrying a torrent shell, which is a rain jacket by Patagonia. It's supposed to be really good. It was not cheap either. It was just probably just under $200. And it's 14 ounces, very heavy. And I've carried it 2,200 miles basically, waiting for a really tough storm. So I knew that I'd be prepared. Like there's most people that will have like a poncho or something called frog togs. They're cheap. They're like, cheap and very light. I'm really not focused on the money. It's much more focused on the weight. So maybe they're like 4 or 5 ounces. There's Montebello too, but they were sold out, so I couldn't get one of those. But these very light rain jackets, I wanted something heavy duty, and I've carried almost a pound, 14 ounces I believe is how much it weighs, almost a pound, this entire trail. And yeah, I've used it a time or two here, but there's really been no situation where I felt like it was doing anything that like a lighter or cheaper rain jacket couldn't handle. But this storm, or this just consistent rain, it was when I needed it, and it just didn't hold up. Within 2 hours, it was wetted out. My entire shirt, like this white sun hoodie, was wet or damp, the whole thing. And it was just miserable. So it was raining, I'm wet on the inside and cold, and I had put my phone into the pocket of my rain jacket with the idea that I'd be able to access it when I need to check far out for water sources in the map and to take quick videos for the vlog, and then put it back, and it would be protected in the pocket of the rain jacket that you think would protect from the rain. However, the phone, just like my body, got totally wet and damp. And when I was doing some of my training or prep hikes for this, I intentionally went out in the rain, and there's a time I got stuck in the rain and I had my phone in my pants pocket and it was just getting too wet. And the solution I found then was to put it in my rain jacket pocket.
However, that was less than 2 hours. So out here, it was over 2 hours, and it wetted out. So now my phone is wet, and nothing. I'd rub it on my pants, my rain pants. I tried pulling those down, rubbing it on my normal pants. I tried wiping it to like dry it off, right? So then I could touch it, use it. It wouldn't work. It like wouldn't recognize me touching it to swipe up to open it. Like I literally could not open my phone. So eventually I knew there was a water source I want to get to. I got there, got under some trees, took my bag off, took out the microfiber towel that I have, which should dry and absorb the moisture pretty quickly. And that was my plan then. If I needed to use my phone, I would wipe off the phone with the micro towel, wipe my hand in the microfiber towel, and then look stuff up. And it was still not cooperating great, but at least kind of worked. So I'm at this water source, and I just didn't want to go into the lake. It was raining to get water. And I saw there was another lake coming up in like 4 more miles, which would have put me 12 and a half miles on the day. And somewhere around in that time frame would be the last video that I took, or before then. Because then I get to this lake 12 and a half miles in. I'm just cold, wet, miserable. And I know I really can't stop moving, because moving is what is keeping my body temperature up. But I'd already, to move, you need fuel and calories. I'd already burned through all my snacks that I had in my snack pocket. So I'd have to take my backpack off to access more. So I walk around this lake. I find a tree for shelter, and I'm just standing like as close to, like pinned up against this tree as I could. And it's rain still coming, kind of on an angle, but it definitely protected me somewhat from it, the rain. And there, I basically just had this only lunch, this whole trail I had taken standing. I made my tortilla lunch really quickly in the rain and just ate it as fast as I could so I could get the calories to warm up and keep fueling my body so I could keep moving. And then I went and collected some water from that lake, which was not fun. At this point, the gloves I had, which are not waterproof, but they're water resistant, I got them at REI, they're like all weather gloves, had held up better than my rain jacket. I want to say they maybe made it 4 hours or so, but at this point, my hands were totally wet inside the gloves, but I kept them on. And so then I got back, got the water filtered, and I kept moving. But I couldn't really check my phone because it just wasn't functioning. Even though I tried drying it off, it just wouldn't work. So I didn't know where like the next water source was. So I basically just had to deal with kind of being thirsty for a while. So eventually, around 3 p.m., so that's almost, at least since I woke up in the middle of the night and it was raining at 4 a.m. the night before, that was 11 hours of rain. It had been raining almost without interruption. Wasn't like a crazy downpour, but that long, consistent rain, it was pretty bad. And it finally let up, and I feel just so gross. I know I can't stop long because I can't let my core temperature go down. But my feet were killing me. I basically had been walking nonstop, except for that 10-minute, 15-minute, probably 10 minutes, not even, standing in the rain, rushed lunch because I just needed the fuel to burn. Break. I basically walked from 8 a.m. nonstop till like 3 p.m. and my feet were hurting. So I take a little break. I lay out my mat that I sleep on and use for breaks, like always. By this log, some shelter under a tree. I take my phone out, wipe it with the microfiber towel, and then open up far out, and it's saying that I'm only 8.6 miles in, which doesn't make sense because that's where I had last checked when I mentioned earlier, and I decided to push to the next lake for water. So I hit the little GPS dot, so it should like update my location, and it just kind of stalls for a second, and then it just like freaks out. I can't remember if it like shook or like glitched or what, but the far out app closes, and then my whole phone just goes black, and it just shut down. So now I have no phone working. That's gonna be part 1 of my monologue. I need to use the bathroom. Okay, part 2 of what happened on days 133 and 34. So now I took a break around 3 p.m. when the rain finally let up. I mean, there's just nowhere to stop and sit when it's raining. And literally, it's to say hypothermia would be a little dramatic, but it was close to that. Whereas I was worried if I stopped, my core temperature would drop. So I had to keep moving. And one sec. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I don't feel like I need to share this, but I'm just going to because I really want to show what it's like out here. This is the first time it's happened to me, but I kind of had to take an emergency poop like 10 minutes ago. And you know, you're pooping in the woods. Like you have to squat down and like basically a little bit kind of missed the target and somehow got in my boxers. And I didn't know it then and I started walking and I could feel it. It's just gross. I mean, I cleaned it up, sanitized and everything, but yeah, that's just like, I wouldn't say that happens. That's the first time it's happened to me, but like, it's a little messy out here. Okay, so at that point, I'd been about 15 miles in. It had finally let up. It was 3 p.m. There was nowhere to, you can't just like stop in the rain. I was literally worried about my core temperature dropping. So I had to keep moving. That was the only way. I mean, truly, from a weather standpoint, the most miserable it's been on trail by far. It was just pretty awful. And your whole body's wet. And my rain pants held up better than my $20 Eye Creek rain pants I bought off of Amazon. Held up better than my $160 Patagonia torrent shell jacket. But eventually those kind of wetted out too. And I could feel dampness in my pants seeping through. The whole body's just wet. It's raining. Cold. There's like wind sometimes. Just awful. The only thing to do is keep moving. And so I had to keep fueling myself. So eventually when it let up, my feet were hurting. I go to take a rest and my phone is not working. So now I look at the time. I'm like, okay, well, I know sunset's around. My watch was dead as well. And because I was saving battery because I wasn't going to stop in Trout Lake. I was going to keep going. So the watch is kind of a luxury. I don't need it. It's backup navigation. So the only way I knew the time was from my Garmin InReach, like my personal locator beacon device. So I'm like, okay, I know I've got a few hours to go here. I didn't worry too much about my phone just yet. I was like, probably got it from the water. I had been having issues a few days earlier with charging it. I actually bought a new charging cable just for it when I was in Walmart and when I was in Cascade Locks. So I was like, maybe that's it, but it's probably water related. So now I keep moving and I really am flying in the dark. I have no clue where the next water source is. I couldn't even really check when it was raining because it wasn't working. But now that it stopped and my phone just broke, I couldn't check. So I guess long story short, I end up hiking what amounted to be about 10 to 12 miles or so. And I had a half liter. I had drank half a liter. I had the other half on me basically the whole time, even though I was thirsty, because I had no clue where the next water source was. And then I found a creek and a tent site next to it. And this was around around 5:45 per my Garmin InReach. I decided the next place to find that has water, I'm gonna camp by. And so that's probably around like 6:15 or something. It was pretty good timing, given sunset was around 7:30. So I posted up there. And the reason I had to keep moving basically until I set up camp was because I was so cold, my body temperature would drop if I stopped moving. So I set up camp, at which point I got out of my clothes, I put on my dry base layer, like my wool long sleeve, top and bottom, and made a hot meal. It was so like cold and gross and desperate. My tent was absolutely soaked from the night before, as mentioned. So I was carrying my tent outside of my backpack the whole day. It's just raining. So my tent's absolutely drenched. There's like pine needles and dirt pieces all over it, inside and out. I mean, it was like, it's seemingly unusable, but I had to do it. So I set it up and it was just gross. Like the whole thing's wet and damp, but it was still better than nothing. So I get inside. I just feel so awful. I boil extra water. And I took some of my electrolyte packets, poured it in, almost like a makeshift tea, and drank that both at night and in the morning to try to like get my insides warmed. And I had the hot dinner I made in like a mountain house meal, had like my hands wrapped around it, it was just literally like I'm laying in a tent that's wet. Oh yeah, so now let's get into the nighttime. So I'm laying in a tent that is wet on the outside and the inside, increasingly from condensation. And sorry, I just walked into a spider web and I saw the spider. I just want to make sure I didn't hurt it. Condensation, all my clothes are soaked and there's really nowhere to hang them and dry them because everything's wet outside. So my sleeping bag had been damp already from the night before. There was no sun during the day to dry it out, so it's still damp. So now I'm going to bed in a wet tent in a damp sleeping bag, but in dry clothes and having had some warm water. It was really, really hard day mentally and psychologically to push through. So I don't know how I slept, kind of on in and out. But there's Mount Adams. But I know when I woke up, it was 38 degrees. Somebody else had thermometer said 37. So I wake up, it is cold. Not freezing though, but at least where I was. Some people said their tents were actually frozen. Because I subsequently talked to a lot of people, obviously, about this. But where I was, not frozen, but just close enough to it where it was just miserable. So nothing's dried. Both my pair of socks are soaked because the other ones had gotten, I had out. They were already a little wet because I was trying to dry them out the day before. So it was, I had to put on a wet, cold pair of socks, which just sucks. My shoes were still drenched. Oh yeah, the whole trail was like washed out. It's like where I'm walking now. It should have been easy, smooth miles like this. There was just water in this, probably up to like ankle deep in some parts. At first I tried to avoid it walking, but at some point I just gave up because everything was so soaked anyways. So I was basically just walking in puddles that are up to my ankle or halfway up to my ankle for a lot of them. So like my whole feet soaked. When I got to camp, a few miles before camp, I took my gloves off. My hands were totally pruned and my feet naturally too. So my shoes the next morning are still drenched and cold and wet. This is like one of the absolute worst feelings. My pants were so damp still. Tried hanging them on one of my trekking poles. I think some of the condensation water was getting on them at night. Those I just wouldn't put on. So I actually hiked that next day, which was yesterday, day 134, in my thermals, or like my base layer, my wool long sleeve pants, or whatever they are called, with my rain pants on top because everything was still so wet the next day. You get car washed and you get really wet that way from rubbing against all the plants. So this is when I made friends with Justin the night before, who I introduced earlier. And so then we started hiking. Basically I pack up all my stuff. It is just miserable putting on wet socks, wet shoes, semi-wet rain pants, semi-wet rain jacket again, and just having to start hiking probably around 8 a.m. again. It was around 8 a.m. again. So I get moving, and then I pass Justin, I say good morning, and then I stop for a little bit to take layers off, and he had caught up because he was almost ready and told me there's a shuttle to get into town at noon. So I would have had to have done like an 18-minute pace at this point. It was 10:20 a.m. and I had a little over 5 miles to go. So I just booked it, and I think my body's still a little sore and achy from that because much of it was uphill. But I absolutely booked it to get to the shuttle because my phone was broken. Now, what had been going on my phone during this time, I tried to dry it out or whatever, it started giving me the Apple logo. It would turn on, the Apple logo would show up for a second or two, and then it would just go away. And it would show up again and go away, and there's nothing I could do. So then I would do like the hard reset, and then it would show the icon to plug the lightning charger, because I still have a 14, into a computer, and you say to go on like apple.com/restore. Like my phone was just totally corrupted and had to be restored. So like totally screwed. I had 100 gigabytes of phone photos on here still and videos from this vlog. I had most of them uploaded to YouTube already, so I would have only lost 2 days, day 131 and 132, and I guess 33 as well, for like getting them up on YouTube. But all the source files for so many days gone. So at this point, I'm still not freaking out too much, but I'm like, it's a major problem. So I had enough food, as I mentioned earlier, that I could have kept going to White Pass, where I'm walking to now. But because of the phone thing, I had to stop in Trout Lake. So I get on the shuttle. Nice guy named Warren, who's a local pastor at one of the churches in town, was volunteering. So he offered, after driving us, because I asked where the biggest next town is, he said it was Hood River. If I really was in a bind, he'd take me. So I get to this general store in Trout Lake. I do everything I can to try to dry my phone out, put it in front of a fan. I kind of let it just sit in the sun a little bit, which probably isn't the best, but whatever. And out of nowhere, this is right when I run into the twins, Colin and Dylan, super pumped, look at my phone, press the button, and it actually turned on and showed the screen. And it had a very low battery. Got very excited, so I go to plug it in, and then it charges for a second, and then I come back, and it's not charging anymore. And it's like, it said liquid detected in charging port, let it dry out. So now I'm just playing this waiting game of it drying out. I wait a few more hours, it's still not charging. So I called Warren, and he took me to Hood River, where I go to the Verizon store. And Verizon, they literally had no phones, which I don't really have the money for it now anyways, nor do I want one, but I would have probably had to because I need far out to navigate and find water sources, and then to do this vlog. So buying a new phone was an option. It's getting tired, I'm gonna pause for a sec, but they didn't have any iPhones available because the 17 is coming out in like a week or something. And so they stopped sending them the 16s. So she literally was like, I have no iPhones to sell you, and neither does our sister store in D-A-L-L-E-S, like Dallas, which is a town to the east. So, but she's like, hey, try charging wirelessly. So we do that, and that works. So my phone starts charging. And there's a whole thing with the charger there was in the wrong box, and she didn't know. She literally couldn't scan it and ring it up. So she's like, hey, just go to Walmart. So I go to Walmart with Warren's help, get a ride there and all, and we grab a wireless charger. So now it's able to charge, which is great news. So I get back to, Warren drops me off at the general store. I decide I'm gonna have to camp there for the night, which is like a $10 donation, which I gave this morning. And I ran into Lila and other people I knew, and we ended up getting some pizza. But this whole time, my phone is on, and it's charging on this wireless charger I bought, but it's being very buggy and slow. And the worst part is, the one thing that was working the worst was the camera. And that worked. Like, I was trying to troubleshoot it when I got back to stores on Wi-Fi, reading all these forums of other people having the same issue, and couldn't figure it out. Nothing was working, I should say. Then I go to bed and wake up, and it's still doing the same thing. But at this point, I'm like, I gotta get back on trail. At least I can use far out and like get through the trail and know where the next water sources are and stuff like that. And I tried restarting my phone a bunch of times. And then in the car, I'm like, oh, I should just try deleting and reinstalling the app, the camera app. But then I was like, oh, I don't have service or Wi-Fi to reinstall the app. But I held the button, you can hold the icon down and it'll show you options, like what to do with it. So I do that. And this is after trying like so much stuff, right? And what was happening prior to that is I'd open up the camera and it would just be a black screen for like 5 seconds. Then the camera would come on, and then I'd hit play or record, and it just like wouldn't record. It was just a mess, like no possible way to use it. And so here I am now, holding down the button, the icon, hoping like they'll give me options to uninstall, reinstall, whatever. And it just freezes again. And my whole phone turns off and restarts. And after it restarts, I just gotten out of the car to back of the trailhead. It was working again, like normal. So I don't know what's going on. I'm very grateful it's working again. And I'm still a little worried with what could happen now that I'm out here, and this is clearly my phone's not in great shape, but it seems to be working normal again. Also, last night I updated to the latest software, tried doing that. That didn't help, but it is a little different that I'm getting used to now. So that was the saga, but a few things to point out. I was, by far, that was the most miserable I've been on trail, from like having to deal with the weather and all that. As awful as it was, like truly, talking to other people too, it was just brutal for everyone pretty much. I was not nearly the level of frustrated as I've been at other times on trail due to injuries. And I maintained an actual gratitude. So I'm in the middle of this awful, I'm cold, wet rainstorm, like all day. And then the next day was just the night, wet, damp tent and sleeping bag, waking up, putting on wet, cold, wet clothes. But my phone's broken. I was no clue where the next water source is, kind of thing. I was grateful that my body was holding up. I still am. My body wasn't hurting. So it's sore right now, but that's in a few places, but overall I don't have anything major at the moment. And that I'm so grateful for. Had I been suffering from something like I've been for much of this trail body-wise, I would have probably lost it yesterday, between not being able to move at the pace I wanted to stay warm because I was wet and cold, and my phone being broken. Like I might have actually broken down if I was in like severe pain. So throughout all this, it reinforces how grateful I am for when my body being good right now, and how insanely frustrating the injuries are. Like yesterday or 2 days ago was absolutely miserable, but because I could at least keep moving, like there's some kind of calm coolness maintained there because my body was holding up. So that was basically what happened. So I could have been like a day ahead, but I had to stop in town, and now I think my phone seems to be working again. Really worried about it, but hopefully it stays. Excuse me. I was just next level exhausted from what I dealt with in the rain, and I ended up doing 25 miles that day. I had no way of tracking it because my watch died, my phone was broken, but back solving, from the day before, how far it was to get to Trout Lake, or I should say the road where you drive into Trout Lake, and then tracking the mileage because I charged my watch throughout the night, because all of a sudden it became a vital piece to have. It's my backup navigation and stuff. I did 25 miles basically. So 25 miles, and basically didn't stop walking from 8 a.m. when I packed up my tent in the cold and it was soaked and dirty, to 3 p.m. where I took a quick break. Couldn't stop long. Body temperature, keep moving all the way to like 6:30. It just took a lot out of me. I was quite exhausted on every level. I still think I'm recovering a bit from it. The day before I'd done 33 miles, and the most elevation, so it was quite a couple days. So that shows the weather we could be having. I know it's been a long monologue. We got to remember this is basically 2 full days worth. There's a ton of things I wish I could have filmed and shown, but just take my word, I just got caught on a root. Wow. Ouch. It was pretty awful, and I really hope there's not too many more days, if any, like that left on this trail for me. It was so bad. My things were so wet and cold, 38 degrees wet and cold, that I didn't wear my compression sleeves yesterday. And I still had to hike 10 to 11 miles to get to town, and my shins are really hurting today because I didn't have them protected properly. So it's been a grind. I'm exhausted. If I make it a full 25 miles today, then I will have about 400 left on this whole journey, which is starting to feel attainable. Okay, so that's basically, I'm missing stuff, but in a nutshell, well, not really because it was long, but that's what happened in days 133, 134. And now I'm back, day 135, filming. Just broke my rule to walk back in just to film this. I'm pretty sure it's bear poop. You can see all the berries in there. Bear scat. Snow totally around on Mount Adams. I bet I heard some snow coming down in that, I don't know if it's called an avalanche, but that glacier up there. I definitely heard something kind of crashing for like a minute straight, and a little bit 5 minutes later. Well, it looks like the next 12-15 miles should be pretty moderate with elevation after already doing over 3,000 feet in gain today over 12 miles, but I'm getting a little PTSD just looking at these rocks. I really hope that there's nothing like what I had to encounter in Oregon. The lava rocks, that was awful. Probably my least favorite. Most people, other things were harder, but it just did not match up well with me. I mean, other things were harder probably for me too, but just with meaning having plantar fasciitis and a lingering minor stress fracture and all that, it was pretty bad. So I just had a second ranger the whole trail that I met on trail stop by and chat for a while. It was super nice, named Talon, and he had a dog, Lewitt, that he was training, but he confirmed for me that that was what I was hearing. In fact, there's either rock slides or kind of part of the glacier crashing down daily. It says if you climb up there, it sounds like a war zone on Mount Adams. It's like mansion-sized stuff falling down every day. So that is what I heard. I asked 7 other hikers that were close by, and none of them were like, no, I didn't hear anything. So I was very glad to confirm that, which was cool. And also, I guess it's a big, popular backcountry ski route up there on Mount Adams. So it was nice chatting with him. And I am walking through the rocks here to continue my PCT hike. Dang, there's some fast-moving water here. I presume it's glacier melt, but haven't experienced something like this in a while. These are like, I mean, it's not deep enough to like raft really, but it's kind of like rapids, like whitewater rafting vibes. It looks like, you can see where the trail continues across there. I'm probably gonna have to climb across those tree trunks. I don't see many other places to do this. I'm not gonna film the crossing, but maybe I'll film the approach, because look how cool Mount Adams is there. Wow. Okay. This is crazy. Look how much just melt is coming through. I mean, it makes sense that you can see where it runs off right there. It kind of comes down. So, it's the time of year. I'm sure it's due to the fact that I was like bundled up and wet for like a full day basically. But I'm getting a resurgence. Like my ringworm, athlete's foot is blown back up again on my feet. My entire back is kind of stinging again, like when I had that some kind of skin rash irritation back there, but this time it's like even higher up. It's just really uncomfortable, really uncomfortable. Just want to correct the record. Now I'm thinking about it, I guess the count would be 3 rangers. I had one when I was in Kings Canyon, Sequoia National Park. That was cool. I stopped and talked to her for a minute. Then I had here Talon, Mount Adams. He's a Forest Service ranger, so I guess the one before is like a national park ranger. And I met a few, like they called themselves science rangers, where they work for the Park Service, but they're not like the ones that would be checking permits and stuff. They like are basically just doing like work out in the field. But there was also one really early on, sometime in the first like 5 or 6 days. It was the same day I had the first bit of trail magic. I think it was literally like day 3 or 4 or 3. But it wasn't technically on trail. It was at a campground that we were kind of passing through. So that's why I say 2. But yeah, it's not been many. So it was nice. I appreciate them kind of being out here, answering any questions, whatnot. to see some peeps again on trail. Mount Adams in the background. Some horses. Look at that. Wow, a lot going on.
You suck.
Harry, be nice to my viewers.
They suck as well.
The UK's finest. I just talked to another PCT hiker, Harry, who you saw in the video there, teasing. He was explaining to me because he might do like mountain guiding in Switzerland, but he's taking some courses for it and everything. And seracs, the ranger mentioned that word. I didn't know what it was. It's these shelves essentially on the glacier that can fall. I just wanted to clarify. The ranger said something about a mansion falling. I don't know what he meant by that. I presume he meant the size of it, but like, anyways, I know I mentioned that earlier. I might not have interpreted that perfectly, but yeah, it's definitely what I heard. It's like either a snow shelf falling, like these seracs, or a rock slide. Okay, it's just past 4:30. I just stopped to get water, and that's where a lot of people are taking their lunch that I saw earlier, so chatted for a little bit. I've got 9.4, so like 9.5 miles basically to where I want to camp. Sunset's in 3 hours, a little bit less than 3 hours. Ooh, I think the trail goes this way, but I need to double check. One sec. Yeah, probably sunset's in a little less than 3 hours. I might be able to pull it off though, because it's mostly downhill. Again, I'm a little slower downhill relative to my uphill compared to most people, but it's definitely not going to be as much of a push physically. It's not easy necessarily, but I've got about 550 feet of elevation gain across those 9 miles and 1850 or so of descent. So might be doable before sunset, or at least dusk. So that's the plan. We keep pushing. Day 135 on my hike from Mexico to Canada on the Pacific Crest Trail. And what a volatile ride it's been. I was just, thinking about how absolutely brutal it was 2 days ago. I had no music, obviously, because it was raining, and my headphones, and literally no. I was kind of flying in the dark. Literally, when my phone broke, my watch wasn't charged. I was drenched. It was just cold. I figured it out. And I honestly never was super stressed. I knew I could handle it and it'd be okay. But I was miserable. But I was still way less frustrated because I was grateful that my body was feeling okay. The frustration levels I feel when my body's hurting of the shin splints and stuff is just, it's next level. That from only a few things in life I found so frustrating. So yeah, it was an absolutely brutal day. And talking to a bunch of people in town yesterday, like hearing their stories, like everyone was kind of in the same boat. A handful of people, I passed 3 tents when I was walking that day that clearly just rode out the storm, the rain. And it wasn't a storm, it wasn't like lightning and thunder, but rain. So it's a rainstorm, and just kind of rode it out in their tent. So some people, which, maybe a smart move, I don't know. I feel like I had to keep moving, but it ended up being a wash anyways, because I had to take basically 3/4 of a day to go handle my phone issue. But yeah, it was pretty rough and wash. But like, compare that to like today. Look at that mushroom. Yeah. Oh, there's so much stuff I saw that I wanted to record. There's just some really cool mushrooms and the rain on some lakes and stuff, but couldn't obviously do that. Saw some of these like Mario looking mushrooms yesterday, much bigger, and a couple together, but at least I'm seeing more now. Oh, my shins are hurting. It's not good. I've been at the last water source, tried to like do the exercises with them and stuff. It's probably because I didn't wear my compression sleeves yesterday, because they were like 38 degrees and totally soaked, and I was going super fast to try to catch that noon shuttle, which actually ended up being 12:30. But anyways, 2 people, that I just am friends with out here, just got stung by either a bee or a wasp. Both of them, one multiple times. So I don't know what's going on. I haven't heard too much of that at this trail, but it is that time of year. I know yellow jackets, I think they're more inclined to do that around this time of year as they're dying off, but I don't know what it was. They thought of wasp maybe, but thankfully I think they have what they need and they're not allergic or anything. But yeah, it's always something out here.
wear on my face.
How much bad stuff can you say before you get cancelled?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Fun.
We can find out. Yeah, we having fun out here? Justin had a message right after I hung up.
Yeah, I love when my feet hurt.
How often is that?
Just every day. All day.
Every day, all day.
It's the best part.
All right, a little bit of a dangerous crossing. Definitely feels like fall out here. So I've got about a mile and a half left to get to where I want to camp. I'm making the push. Sunset is in 13 minutes. That'll hit me at putting me at 25 miles, which is actually really, really good for the day since I didn't get started till like 9 a.m. because even though I was up at kind of similar normal time a little bit later, just getting the ride and to trail and everything. So my shins are feeling a little weird, but I think it's again because of yesterday, so hopefully they'll be better in the morning. Overall, very grateful how the body is feeling and holding up. That is really just the big difference out here for me. But yeah, I'm gonna try to have a big day tomorrow. It was 66 miles, so that leaves me 41 at the end of the day to get to White Pass. At which point, I'm gonna have to figure out a plan to get around this fire closure. But that is for another day. It's been a good day overall, 135. But definitely had some curveballs thrown at me in the last few days. So I think that's a sign Sobo's made, 400 miles, or somebody going north wanted to document. But that is 400 miles left to go on the Pacific Crest Trail. September 16th. I'm feeling pretty good about my odds with the weather and all. I have gotten a little bit swayed recently, which is not great, by too many people I've been meeting that I think are too complacent and trusting they're going to get weeks and weeks into October, especially after some of the weather that hit us. I don't know. I feel like it should be a bit of a wake-up call, but as long as my body holds up, I keep putting out 25 to 32 plus miles a day. I should get there a few days after October, and I feel okay about that, like safe in terms of the weather in the window. So 400 miles to go. That is a big milestone. Again, there's nothing to celebrate because the job is not done, but it's starting to get where I can really see a path to victory here. And that is extremely encouraging and what I need to remain motivated. I mean, I don't need that. I will find my motivation from digging down deep, but it really does help at this point. All right, I basically made it. I'm gonna grab water out of this creek, and then the tent site is just right here somewhere. So this is gonna be the end of day 135. Overall, it was a good one. I'll see you all tomorrow.